1. The unsettling arrival introduced the narrator, their mundane and repetitive daily routine in a quiet neighborhood. Described their house, their habits, and their general outlook on life. A new family moves into the house next door. They seem polite, normal, and friendly at first, perhaps even too friendly. The narrator has brief yet strange interactions with them. Forced smiles, overly rehearsed conversations, or an odd reluctance to discuss their past. Slowly, subtle red flags begin appearing. The neighbors avoid eye contact. They never seem to leave the house during the day, and there are no signs of a normal lifestyle. No groceries, no visitors, no casual outdoor activity. One night, the narrator hears an unsettling noise from the neighbor's house. An eerie, muffled cry, a heavy thudding sound, or strange whispers in an unfamiliar language. 2. Unraveling the mystery, the narrator begins noticing more unusual occurrences. Flickering lights from the neighbor's house at odd hours, distorted shadows moving past the windows, and a foul, decaying smell that occasionally drifts through the air. Objects appear in their yard. An old, rusted key, a note with incoherent scribbles, or an unmarked envelope with disturbing images. The narrator decides to investigate by subtly observing the neighbors, trying to catch a glimpse of their routine, but realizes they never see them eating, sleeping, or doing anything normal. One night, the narrator hears frantic shuffling outside their bedroom window and sees one of the neighbors standing there, staring at them. But when they blink, the figure is gone. The narrator starts researching the history of the house and discovers something deeply disturbing. Perhaps a missing persons case, an unsolved murder, or a rumor about the previous owners never truly leaving. 3. The truth unveiled one night. Curiosity drives the narrator to sneak into the neighbor's yard. They peek through a slightly open window and see a hidden basement door, one that wasn't there before. Unable to resist, they break in and discover a chilling sight. Perhaps ritualistic symbols, disturbing photographs, or grotesque body parts carefully preserved in jars. Just as they are about to escape, the narrator hears footsteps behind them. A voice whispers, "You weren't supposed to see this." They turn around and see the neighbors standing in the dark, their faces eerily expressionless, as if they are wearing human masks. The truth finally clicks. These people aren't human. Or worse, they used to be. 4. Confrontation and resolution. The narrator tries to run, but the neighbors block their way. They speak in a voice that doesn't sound natural, telling the narrator that they need a replacement. A struggle ensues. Perhaps the narrator barely escapes through a broken window, or they find a weapon and fight back. Just as they are about to be overpowered, something intervenes. Maybe a police siren, a sudden phone call, or a neighbor's dog barking, causing the creatures to momentarily retreat. The narrator flees back to their house, locks every door, and calls for help. But when the authorities arrive, the neighbor's house is completely emptied. No furniture. No people, no sign of anyone ever living there. Just an abandoned, dust-covered home, with the basement door now missing. 5. The aftermath. Days pass, but the paranoia never leaves. The narrator constantly checks the locks, keeps a weapon nearby, and suffers from terrifying nightmares. They try to warn others, but everyone dismisses them as paranoid. One night, they receive an anonymous letter. It only has 4 words: "We will be back." The final scene fades to black with a chilling sound. Perhaps a knock on the door or whispers from the shadows. 1. A fresh start. Jessica had always wanted to live alone. After years of sharing apartments with roommates, she finally found a place of her own. A modest but charming apartment in an old building downtown. The rent was surprisingly cheap for the location, which should have been a red flag. But she didn't question it. The first few nights were peaceful. She spent her evenings curled up with a book, enjoying the rare silence. But that silence didn't last long. 2. Small, unsettling disturbances. It started with little things. Her keys would disappear, only to show up later in places she swore she hadn't left them. Cabinets she closed would be open in the morning. Sometimes, she'd come home to find her faucet running or the fridge door slightly ajar. At first, she blamed herself. She was exhausted from work. Maybe she was just being forgetful. Maybe the old apartment had bad plumbing. But then came the noises. 3. Whispers in the night. Late at night, When the world outside was silent, she started hearing strange sounds, soft creaks in the walls, as if something was shifting inside them. Faint rustling, like the sound of fabric brushing against drywall. A whisper point one night. She woke up at exactly 3:12 a.m. to the sound of her closet door slowly creaking open. Heart pounding, she grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight. The closet was empty. Nothing inside but her clothes swaying slightly, as if something had just brushed past them. She told herself it was just her imagination, but deep down, she knew something was wrong. Point 4. The unsettling discovery determined to prove to herself that she was just being paranoid. She decided to inspect the apartment. She tapped against the walls, feeling for hollow spots, checking for anything unusual. That's when she found it. Behind her bedroom dresser, there was a small, barely visible ventilation shaft, one big enough for someone to crawl through. She removed the vent cover and shined a light inside. The dust was disturbed, as if something or someone had been moving through it recently. Her stomach twisted. This wasn't just an old building settling. Someone had been inside. Point 5. The handprints that night. Sleep was impossible. Every creak of the apartment sent her heart racing. Then, around 2 a.m., she heard something new, soft breathing. Jessica held her breath, listening. The sound was faint, but it was inside the walls. She grabbed her phone, flipped on the flashlight, and slowly turned toward her bedroom window. Her blood turned to ice. There, on the glass, were two pale, smudged handprints on the inside. She wasn't alone. Point 6. Trapped inside her own home, panic surged through her veins. She grabbed her phone to call the police, but her phone battery was dead. That's when she heard a slow, deliberate scratching. Coming from behind the wall near her closet, a voice, so faint it was almost a breath, whispered, "I see you." Jessica sprinted out of her bedroom, yanking open the front door, only to find that the chain lock was latched from the inside. Someone had locked her in. Point 7. The hidden crawl space with no other option. She grabbed the heaviest object she could find, her bedside lamp, and slammed it against the chain lock. It took 3 tries, but the chain finally snapped. She ran out into the hallway and pounded on her neighbor's door. An old man opened it, startled. "Please, call the police. Someone is in my apartment." She gasped. By the time the police arrived and searched her apartment, it was empty. But when they inspected the ventilation shaft, they found something horrifying, a small hidden crawl space behind the walls, just big enough for a person to slip through. Inside, they found a thin, dirty mattress, crumpled food wrappers, a collection of Jessica's missing items, a scarf, a hairbrush, and her old work ID, and worst of all, a journal. Inside the journal were detailed notes about Jessica's daily routine, what time she left for work, when she went to sleep, and even what she liked to cook for dinner. The last entry sent a chill through her spine. "She almost saw me today. I think it's time." 8. The escape and the aftermath. Jessica never spent another night in that apartment. The police told her they never caught the man. The crawl space led to an old maintenance tunnel that connected to several other units. Whoever had been living in her walls was still out there. To this day, Jessica sleeps with all the lights on, and every night before she goes to bed, she checks the walls, the vents, and the windows, because she knows that somewhere he's still watching.